KLVT News now presents Focus, a public affairs presentation designed to keep you up to date on news affecting this area of the South Plains, and presenting interviews with people who have become involved in our changing society. And now, speaking for KLVT News, here is Gene Bittner with today's Focus program.
Today on our Focus program, we have as our special guest DeForest Kelley, better known on the television tube around 6 o'clock in the afternoons on Channel 28 is Dr. Bones, Dr. McCoy of the TV series Star Trek. And first of all, if I may just call you Mr. Kelley, I feel more comfortable in doing that. Can you tell us just what you're doing in Lubbock, sir?
Well, I'm here doing a play called Beginner's Luck. It's a light, frothy comedy that I decided I hadn't done a play in many years, and I thought that I should get back to the stage. That's where I started. And I began to wonder whether or not I could do it again. So I took on a comedy because it's something that I'm never called upon to do. My field has always been more or less heavy drama, neurotic, psychos, and Western heavies. So I wanted to do something to stretch my muscles and to see it presented a challenge to me. And that's really the reason that I'm here.
Well, there's no doubt about it. It's been successful, that's for sure. There have been great reviews of the production. And can you tell us just a little bit about the play itself and how it goes?
Yes, it's called, as I said, Beginner's Luck, and that refers to the fact that it's the first and only time this man stepped out on his wife, and he got caught. And so the story revolves around him trying to romance his wife again, to win her back, and it results in a very funny situation.
Do you have any idea how long this will run here in Lubbock?
We were originally to close on the 24th, but the audience response has been so great that they have extended it now until the 31st. And we've had exceptionally good houses. It's very gratifying to see the number of people that are turning out to see this show.
Mr. Kelley, do you like being back on the road again, or in a situation like this? Has it been enjoyable so far?
Yes, it has, particularly here in the Lubbock area. It's been a most gratifying experience for me because I have found an exceptional group of people. They seem so friendly and open, and they've just been over backwards to make our stay a pleasant one. And I'm enjoying the country, the people, the whole. It's a great change of pace and scenery and feeling for me all the way around.
Well, let's go back in the early days here and just sort of find out where you came from and how you got into show business. I believe you're a Southerner, right?
That's right. I'm a PK, a preacher's kid. My father was a Baptist minister in Georgia for 35 years, and I had never been out of the state of Georgia. And when I graduated from high school, I had an uncle, my mother's brother, who lived on the coast, and I was involved in music at the time. I was a kid singer in church with him doing evangelistic work and that sort of thing, and they told me they'd let me go to California for a couple of weeks if I would continue my musical studies. Got out there. He turns out to be kind of a wild gambler, and I was very enthralled with him. And he said, "Look, kid, why don't you stick around, get a job? You've never been out of the state before, and, see what it's like." So I did, and I loved it. So I stayed a year, and that was the beginning of what was to happen to me that I had no idea was going to happen. I, in turn, in order to meet some young people, I met a fellow who was associated with a local theater group. And I really joined the theater group just to meet people. And as it turned out, the very first play I did, I was extremely young at the time, the studios became interested in me. But at that time, there were no teenagers in pictures, so to speak, as there are today, So you were either a leading man or a character man, or, there was no in-between. So they kept saying, go back to Long Beach, keep working, and that sort of thing. And eventually I did sign a contract at Paramount, and I was there for a number of years, and then on to New York and back and forth, and the hungriness and...
I know... At one time, I believe you worked as an elevator operator. That's sort of a classic Hollywood thing, isn't it?
Well, I was in Long Beach at the time. I was working that was a job I was doing. I did a number of jobs. After that, after the elevator operator, I went to work for Shell Oil Company, and I was a roughneck in the fields for a couple of 3 years. getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and going to the theater and doing a play at night till like 12 or 12:30 and that sort of thing. And then I worked for Bethlehem Steel, and this is, before the war, peacetime. So I worked hard, and night and day.
Any other comments you'd like to make about the program itself, either past, present, or in the future?
No, the only thing I can tell you, Gene, is that it was an enjoyable experience. And when Star Trek died, so to speak, it died because of the Nielsen ratings. There are 1,200 homes in the United States which are set up on the Nielsen box, and they decide what you and I are going to see. Now, we were in direct conflict with this process because in the second year of Star Trek, there was a show called The Monkees that was on. I don't know whether you remember it or not.
Right.
But they had broken every fan mail record in the history of NBC. Now, that's including people like Dean Martin, Bob Hope, what have you. The most mail ever received for a show. The second year, we surpassed them and broke their record. So we were receiving more fan mail than any show in the history of NBC, but the Nielsen's never reflected a high rating. So we bit the dust, and I never dreamed. When it went into syndication, I just thought, well, there are 10 residual checks coming in, and that was it. And then the first year after Star Trek, I had some offers to do things, but they were not really what I wanted to do, and I felt that I was in a position to sit back and maybe pick and choose for a while. The second year, I began to see Star Trek picking up in speed, a whole new generation. They keep coming up. And then I found myself being somewhat identified with the show, and I was having some casting problems. So it was a mixed blessing. Now then I find myself, and Leonard and Bill certainly do too, of going through the realities or unrealities of a hit show all over again without doing it. We are going through where with the studio we had people to take care of our fan mail. There was secretarial service available to us, all sorts of services around us. Now then, the show is possibly more popular now than it was then, and we have none of this. So we, in turn, are carrying a certain expense.
I see all sorts of things happening from this one show. For instance, in another particular program, there was this incident on one of the, I believe it was a space station, and you had the problems with the little animals, the tribbles, I think they were called. And there was a problem of them getting into this big bin of grain, and it was called Quanto Triticale or something. And I've just noticed that they've just flashed a bulletin now that they're making bread out of this now. They call it Triticale, and they're advertising it on television. Did you know that?
I did not know that. That's very interesting. But that show, David Jarrell wrote that show. A very young guy came on the set one day. I looked over at him, and he looks about your assistant's age. Forgive me.
This is Greg here helping me today, Greg Platt.
Well, he looked about Greg's age, and he was talking to me on the set, and he said, I've written a show you're going to do. And I said, oh, really? What? I was stunned. And he said, The Trouble with Tribbles is the name of it. Turned out to be one of the most popular shows that we've ever done. And but I didn't know that. Do you know what company is doing this?
It's a local bakery, and it's on local television here, and it's called Triticale, brand new grain developed. I thought, well, that's not new. That was on Star Trek,
That's marvelous. No, I didn't know that.
I think I'd see if I could get any cut out of that. I don't know. You might be in the bread business here.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's been just great visiting with you here, and we want to invite everybody out to see this, especially fans of the show, because I know they would identify even more with what's going on. And I think it's fantastic that you have this big success here, and as you say, something that you've been out of for a while. And it looks like to me it's all rosy and looking up. So we certainly wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you, Gene. I hope so. It may put me on a new ground somewhere along the line. And I wanted to tell you, too, I don't know if this is going to materialize, but we're thinking in terms of perhaps putting on a matinee question and answer autograph session for the young people at a reduced rate. There are so many of them that would like to come, and visit. And we may do that sort of thing so that a lot of the kids can come.
Well, it's been great visiting with you today, and I have only one other comment. I do hope you make it out of here before we have a sandstorm. We have notorious sandstorms here.
I've heard that, and I read this morning about a few twisters whipping around on the edges. Of course, in California we have earthquakes, so everybody's got something, It can't all be, but this, it's been delightful. I might add that I brought the rain. I told my wife that I'd bet her $10 if I came to Lubbock it would rain, and it did.
We are appreciative of that.
You're quite welcome.
Okay, we've been visiting with DeForest Kelley of the television series Star Trek, and who's currently starring in a very fine comedy production at the Hayloft Dinner Theater in Lubbock. And you'll want to be sure and take that in. This has been another program of KLVT Focus.